Today, we want to talk about how to get your resume read.
Yes.
And that is the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're going to do a five to one countdown on the essential ways to bring your resume to the top of the pile so someone actually reads it.
Yes. So number 5 is you got to capture their attention, right?
Yep.
I mean, but like, how do you do that? You know, how do you
Yep.
actually capture someone's attention in this sea, in the plethora of resumes that,
Yeah.
a hiring manager is looking at?
I think you first need to think like a hiring manager. What do they need to hear from you to entice them to want to read on for the role that you're wanting to fill?
And you have a finite amount of time.
Exactly.
How many seconds?
You get 6 to 8 seconds of a read. So you've got to capture it first. So I think the first thing is make sure you do all of the basics right. We have an earlier episode on that, like the major essentials. So, because you'll get immediately overlooked if you've done things wrong. There are typos, or you're using an objective statement or whatever.
Yes.
Speaking of objective statement, make sure you use a strong profile statement at the top. That makes it easy for me as a hiring manager to read 3 or 4 sentences that say, okay, this person's smart. They definitely do what I want them to do. And now I want to read on. And you need to be memorable. So one of the things we always talk about with interviews is make sure you're memorable. But you need to be memorable on paper too. And you're memorable by using unique language.
Right.
So we're not talking about how I'm a servant leader, mission-driven people person who's detail-oriented. I mean, there's like every resume says that. And be careful about employing AI.
Right.
Because ChatGPT profile statements are very recognizable. They use a lot of the same words. Use your own language. Be specific, be authentic, tap into other sources, other people, old reviews, etc., to learn how other people describe you.
Right, exactly. And I think something that happens, especially for the people in our audience that are career returners or have that gap in the resume or are pivoting in some way, shape, or form, is that they sort of dance around the title that they're claiming or what it is. And a hiring manager really wants to know this person, like, you are speaking to me. And so knowing that audience piece is really important, right? And being clear about that.
Make sure that what you are writing is speaking to that hiring manager.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about having one resume. It's important that you don't have 6 versions of your resume out there, because once they leave your hand, you have no control.
Right.
So if I apply to Kelley's company for 5 different jobs with 5 completely different resumes, and now a hiring manager is interested in me, but they pull up the wrong one because they're all housed together. The first thing I'm going to think is, A, this person's not qualified, or B, this person is basically throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks.
Right.
So make sure you know who your audience is and you're speaking to them to capture their attention.
Yes. Okay. So number 4 in our lineup here today is to make it easy on the eyes. And that sounds simple, but that can be a real challenge, right?
Sure.
So what are the ways that we make it easy on the eyes for people?
So following a predictable format, which is the standard reverse chronological profile statement, skills list, experience, education, publications, etc. If I know where something is, it's going to be easier for me to find it, and I can read it more quickly. And if it's not, if I open up a resume and it's not clear, again, I have 6 to 8 seconds. I'm not going to waste any of my seconds trying to figure out how this resume flows. I'm going to push it over. Yeah. Similarly, if I can't read it, if the font is too small or too wonky, I'm not going to read it. If there's not enough white space, if I can tell this person's tried to cram 20 years into one page, I'm not going to read it. If it's 5 pages,
I'm not reading
or
it.
3 pages, I am not reading it. So it should be something that's got enough white space, that has a large enough font, that's clean, that's predictable, so that I can quickly skim it to decide after that 6 to 8 seconds if I really want to invest some time in it.
Yes.
So making it easy on the eyes is really important.
Yes. And we have another video, like you said earlier, to go back to really look at what those clear elements are that you want to hit on. All right. And then the next one, number 3, is use a conventional, easy to navigate format.
So I just mentioned that a moment ago, but I want to be clear on what is also out there. So a lot of people will recommend functional resumes, and a lot of them will recommend them to people like you, because a functional resume talks about all the accomplishments I've made and the skills I have.
It seems like a good fix for someone with
but it doesn't really tell me where I did it. So it'll list all of the beautiful things that I can do and have accomplished. And then later, it'll just show me the experience. Like this is where I've worked. The problem is I don't know if you grew revenue by 40% at Nabisco or at the local pet shop. And that matters.
Yep.
So most hiring managers I know, and I've been one and I've worked with a lot of them, will avoid a functional resume because, again, you're making too much work for me. Yep. I've got to figure out where you accomplished what. And it also makes me think, what are you hiding? I would much rather have you be honest with me and put right at the top of your resume that from 2009 to 2018, you were a community leader leading the PTO, working at a nonprofit and advocating for seniors. Right. I would much rather know that you did that work. It's very clear that you weren't doing traditional work, but you're owning it. Right. As opposed to trying to make it hard for me to figure out that you did that.
Exactly. And that's going to make you more confident. Mm-hmm. When you're putting your resume out there, when you're talking to someone, it's, this is who I am. Yeah. And this is the work that I've done, whether it was paid or it was not paid.
Right.
This is work that I've done, and you're owning and claiming that. Okay. And so we've talked about this, right? So using that chronological order, you talked about the different profile statements, etc. We actually have, it's called a winning resume checklist freebie, and that will help you really navigate those different elements that we've talked about that should be included.
Yeah, and if you can go through that list and check all the boxes, then you know your resume is ready for prime time.
Exactly.
If you can't, then you can go back and fix it.
Exactly. Okay. All right, so number 2, and this is a fun one because we are in a digital age now. And for some of you, it was not a digital age when you had your last real career-driven job. And so making it interactive, there are ways to do that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So the first is that you want to take advantage of the fact that most people are going to read your resume online. They may print it still, right? But they're not printing it right away. They're reading it online. So it's easy to engage, right? You can create live links. So I would say the key areas where you want to be interactive and put some live links, beginning at the very top, your LinkedIn link and your email address should both be live links.
Yep.
So that I can just easily access it. Some people will prefer to read your LinkedIn. Some people will prefer to read your resume first. Doesn't matter. But make sure that it's right there at the top and I can click on it. If you have a graphic-oriented work, if you are some type of designer, whether it be textiles or graphic design, or you're some type of artist, commercial artist, and you would, in the old days, have had a portfolio. Create a digital portfolio. Just either set up a simple website. There are sharing sites where you can just host your work, and another place right at the top for a live link. You're making it very easy for me. It's kind of the whole idea of progressive disclosure. I have the stuff here. If you want it, click on it. Not something that we could have done before the digital age, but we want to take advantage of it now.
And it could be the thing that makes you really memorable, right?
Exactly.
It could be that one thing.
I think it also
pushes you to the top.
It does. It also, I think, what's one of the biggest concerns our students have about being old.
Yeah,
it's that they don't know computers. They're not digitally savvy. So when you create a resume with live links and custom URLs, you're automatically showcasing. Exactly right. Where you've worked before. Yeah. Now, you may have worked at GE Aerospace, and everybody knows who they are. Right. But you might have worked at ABC, Aerospace Parts, a small manufacturer in your town. If you have a company that's not easily recognizable, put a live link to the company website so that don't assume that I know what they do.
Exactly.
And don't take up space telling me. In the old days, we'd write a description of the company. You don't have to do that now.
Right.
If I'm curious about the company, I can click on their website and get a snapshot very quickly.
Yeah. But you should live link all of the companies.
Yeah, just for uniformity. Yes. Yeah, for uniformity, it looks a lot better, even though I probably wouldn't click on G. It just looks better.
Do you talk about articles?
Yeah, so anything you might have, anything you've written, so publications, or some people just call this section featured. So if you have been on the news, and there's a link to that video broadcast. If you have written an article, either a blog post, which would be digitally accessed, or an article in a newspaper. If you've been mentioned, maybe, significantly in an article in a newspaper or magazine, any of those areas, if you've been written academic publications, anything that is where you have been featured, either your written content, your spoken content, or you're being referenced as an expert, you want to put that into a section. So you can call it featured, you can call it publications, whatever you want. And then three things, and 3 things max, because you don't want to take a ton of space here. And you set it up as select publications include, and then live links to those publications. If you need to cut space, maybe not all of the detail. You're not writing a bibliography here. You don't have to do it in proper format.
Right.
If you can, great. If not, you can shorten those links, put the key information so that I, as the recruiter or hiring manager, can look at it.
Right.
And sometimes they don't even look at it, but having the live link there
Mm-hmm.
proves that you actually did it.
Yes.
Right? You know, I imagine most people aren't even clicking on it, but you want to show that I have this stuff. I say I do it and I can show it to you.
Yes.
Yep.
Maybe they'll accidentally click on it and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I got to see this person in
Yes.
action if there was a
Yes.
break or something.
Yes.
All right. So the number one way you are going to get your resume to the top of the pile is to give it to a human,
Mm-hmm.
right? Get it in the hands of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways that this digital world has made us think that human to human contact isn't important anymore. And with resumes and keywords and, you know, trying to beat the algorithm of an ATS, that is one of those areas where we really believe strongly in this.
And we know it. I mean, we know that fewer than 20% of Americans have landed a job by just applying online.
And that's if they didn't take a career break.
That's right. Or they have a very conventional work that can be easily measured by a computer. So computers, programmers, application developers, they have a pretty easy time navigating through that system because it's very clear they either have the skill or they don't.
Right.
But for most other jobs, there's a very high qualitative component that cannot be read by an algorithm. So your chances are low right out of the gate. They're lower if you've taken a career break or if you're pivoting or if you're doing both. An algorithm is not going to be able to connect those dots no matter how well you write your resume. However, it's kind of a catch-22 because in most places, you can't be hired if you're not in their system. So we recommend a complementary approach. Yes, if you have to apply online because you need to meet a deadline or you're pretty sure they're going to require you be in their database for consideration, then get in there. Mm-hmm. But then you're spending 99% of that time. The 1% is getting in there. The other 99% of that time is working your network to find someone who can say, I've met Kelley Biskupiak. Right. We had a 10-minute phone call. She seems really nice. Just by telling me that Kelley Biskupiak is a human being who's nice puts her way ahead of anybody who's come in just through applying online. Yep. So the network is key. So you may have connections that have connections in your company, but you may not. You may do a cold reach. I was telling a client just yesterday, he's trying to get into a think tank and doesn't know anybody there, doesn't know anybody who knows anybody there. I said, you know what, just reach out, look at their page on LinkedIn, find someone who works in the department you'd be working and just message them. Just say, hey. And one of my private clients likes to record his interviews so I can listen to them and give him feedback because he interviews a lot. It's more networking. It's not interviewing. It's all networking. But one of the guys that he interviewed is kind of a top dog in his very niched industry. Right. And he said, you know what, Matthew? I took this call because nobody ever just reaches out to me cold like you did, ask to meet with me. Like, I thought this guy has some, you know what, and I'm going to give him my time. And the guy gave him an hour. Yeah. So remember, the bar for human connection is really low right now. So few people are asking to meet in person or asking to have a phone conversation or even reaching out on LinkedIn. A lot of people are posting and praying, dumping resumes into algorithms. You can stand out and you can get to the top of the pile by avoiding that pile as much as possible altogether.
Finding a human. All right. So there you have it. Those are the 5 ways you can make it to the top of that resume pile. If you liked what you heard today, you can subscribe and you can also learn more about our programming at www.preparetolaunchu.com. Thanks.